Hello, and welcome back to part 19 of modelling a Mustang in Fusion 360. So we're kind of getting towards the end of these videos. When I create one of these videos, usually I watch the footage just beforehand, and I'm starting to get to the points which I knew were coming of when I was filming some of the stuff in the later stages of modelling it. The computer was so slow, like I managed to finish off a few more things, but they might be highly cut down videos because there are just long pauses with my computer. So this potentially could be the last one. I imagine there'll be one or two more, but I have a lot of minutes of footage left, but not actually much footage. So yeah, right. So in this episode, back on the rear lights, beginning by using a spline tool to sketch the rear lights. And by zooming in, it creates a smaller kind of grid. I mainly have grid snap on when I'm designing, so it equates to more accurate lines by zooming in further. And what I did there is I accidentally just deleted what I'd just done. Bit moronic. So fit point splines, they're very easy to manipulate. Sorry. So I often opt for them whenever I'm canvas modeling. They're just they're easily the most editable kind of sketch tool. So like my canvas modeling, as I've said before, it's not like when I do things like this, they're not meant to be perfect. They're just meant to look close enough like the real thing. So yeah. Again, sorry it's been another week-long break since the last video. I've been finding them kind of more tedious to edit through, just because there's quite a lot that I have to cut out at the moment with regards to my PC just kind of slowing down. Not from it slowing down editing the footage, but the footage actually being really slow. So yeah, kind of I was finding that pretty tedious. But yeah, so like I said, really easy to edit the sketch tool, the spline tool. Now we have basically a brake light. So I now do something that's a bit, I can't explain why I do it, but I take the sketch and I actually drag it up. I think what my brain is thinking is that the canvas is a bit out. It couldn't be that far out, what I've done. It could not be as far out as I've actually done. But I think it's taken off a line below it, so I think at that point in time I figured the brake lights would be a bit higher. I can see now that they wouldn't be that much higher, but yeah, I'm not really sure why I did that. But yeah, but you can see already PC's slowing down. I mean, to tell you the kind of extent of how much it slows, it's in the following kind of, I don't know if it's 40 minutes of footage left, possibly an hour, possibly a little more. But again, I cut a lot of it out. But the screen starts to go purple and pink, and at that point I was just give up, you know. But yeah. So here, just go use. I quickly created a mirror. Just across. I usually try to mirror sketches rather than features slash bodies. I find error finding easier if you're mirroring a sketch, and that's the way I do it. But if I was like mirroring like a ton of bodies or a ton of sketch entities, I'd rather do I'd rather mirror it as a feature, like, or a body, or as a solid thing than a sketch. And the reason why that is you can group bodies together very easily on the left hand side in the feature tree under like one component name, and then you can mirror components. So you could have like a ton of bodies, and you could just like quickly drag a box over them all, create them into this component, like under one component thing, and then mirror the component, and it will save you a lot of time if you're doing like a vast number. But for small things, if you're just mirroring like one entity or a couple, I would always mirror the sketch. I think, like, for me, it's so much easier to error find anyway. Yeah. But yeah, after mirroring, I use that extrude feature from the object, and you can kind of see my laptop sliding this slow, painful death. And it's this actual modelling of this car is a big reason why I'm actually replacing my computer soon. It's funny. I extruded the rear lights out by 10 mil, and you always find yourself like rounding dimensions to whole integers, which is completely arbitrary. As dragging, I don't know, the extrudes to a certain distance that look right. I don't know why I always do it, and I imagine a lot of people do it, but I guess if you're manufacturing something, like, stretching out to 10 mil is nice, like a round number, but actually when you're like designing something, you shouldn't be basing things off their numerical value. You should actually be doing it off of what looks best. But yeah. So here I'm filleting this edge, and I get an error occur. So the error is because the extrude from the rear lights was 10 millimeters. This means that the fillet has to be it has to be less than 10 millimeters for it to work. So when I tried to do it as 10 millimeters or 15 millimeters, it wasn't going to work. So thinking back about why I raised those brakes, I raised them above the canvas position because the surface was less curvaceous, thus less likely to like distort where the brakes were, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it's looking good so far. So I don't know if you noticed them, but just moved on to like another video. But usually I don't have to cut midway through videos because I have enough footage. But this time I've had to cut it like halfway because, like I said, there's so much like stuff that's just slowed down. So just there, I moved the canvas up. I moved the canvas to match the brake lights that I've raised, and this means I can get the emblem, the Mustang emblem or the Shelby emblem, in the right position relative to the brake lights. So that's why I did that. And when I get in close in a sec, after I've found the right plane, so that's it. I found the plane I was looking for. Like I always do, I find a plane that's outside the body. You really don't need to do this, but just force a habit, I guess. So if you look really closely, you can see that like the canvas isn't perfectly symmetrical. Like, so it probably means that some other dimensions are out, but it puts into perspective, and it shows like that they don't need to be perfect. You don't have to worry about like minor millimeter kind of things. If you're doing a model like this, you can kind of be you can be very haphazard with it. So yeah. So yeah, it really pains me. It pains me to see my laptop running this slow. Yeah, slowing down is literally from creating this car. It is like a major factor in why I didn't add features such as wiper blades, exhaust door handles, etc. I probably would have added those things, but it was so painstakingly time consuming at this point. Like earlier on in the video, you can see that the computer's running fast because there's only a few amount of bodies and the geometry's fairly simple. But by this point, it was really kind of, I don't know, exhausting almost. So yeah, just extruding that. I mean, it shows. Look how slow it is. It's so poor. I thought about cutting this stuff out, but it, like my laptop isn't a cheap laptop either. Like CAD programs can be quite demanding. Actually, they're very demanding. So yeah, I guess you do need a PC purpose for CAD. You could have a gaming PC that you use for it. But for anything that's got like a lot of parts to it, it really slows down, or a lot of patterns in it, really slows it down. So there's the. I'm cutting an extrude in, and then I want to extrude a ring outwards. But yeah. I'll be honest. If you look up close, it looks quite bad, but.
Well, sometimes you have to stand back to appreciate a work of art.
Way back.
Yeah. Like, look at that. It's like the bends are wrong. And things like this, they're actually quite difficult to see unless you're really up close. Especially in the model workspace. But if you go to render something and you put like a glossy finish on something, so when I do cars, I always render them just a quick pour render with a glossy finish. It actually really emphasizes where like creases are wrong. So with this car, like I thought I'd finished it, like I don't know, after the 6 hours were up. I thought I finished it, and I showed my mum and dad, and I showed them a rendered picture of it, and they said like there are like dents on the bonnet. They weren't big, but it was so well highlighted because I used a glossy render that I then went back to it, and it took me like, I don't know, 5 minutes of just toying around with the actual body of the car again. And I did a lot of tweaking kind of after I kind of finished with this project, just coming back and making slight edits. But yeah, it also appears here that I actually forgot that I'd already just created a sketch with 2 circles in. So, and then suddenly I realise but yeah, extremely painstaking, like waiting for this to just move on. Yeah. Eventually I find the sketch. It's right at the bottom of that. I really dislike what the feature tree looks like now. It's just a real mess. And I've got a lot better at that. I think that's something that just comes with practice. But yeah. Yeah, just watching this is a really strong confirmation that I need a new PC. Also, interestingly, with it's related, but it's just a bit of a bridge to get there. With the coronavirus in China, a lot of the manufacturing companies have had to like close down because a few of their employees have got the virus, and I wish them all the best of health. And what it's done for kind of production though, slowed it all down. And like I'm not in such a rush with it that wish for somebody's just their poor health. I'd rather people were better than care about getting these computer parts. But I will say now it's quite a difficult time for a lot of computer parts. Like a lot of companies are just running low on stock because they're not being manufactured. So it's quite interesting, really. But I would say, like, if you were desperate to build a PC, like in the next month you want to build one, do it sooner rather than later. But if you kind of wait too long, a lot of these parts are going to become like the only parts on the market. Like, there'll still be quite a few parts like that people won't usually buy, but a lot of the popular items, like they won't be so easily replenished. So you might find yourself waiting or paying a slightly higher price. Usually, when demand for a product is high and the supply is low, that drives prices up. So potentially, like if you wait too long, you might be paying a bigger price for the same product. Hopefully, when it all kind of fixes itself and we all have a cure and everyone's fine again, production will be boosted back up. But for now, it's really kind of played with the market. So yeah, just interesting to talk about anyway. Yeah. So that's pretty much it for this video. I mean, there aren't too many things left. I think there's probably a bit over an hour of footage left for me to look through, but I imagine it'll probably equate to maybe like 1 or 2 like 5, 10, 15 minute videos. Apologies. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a like, give it a comment, take care.